Thank you very much for the intro, and thank you all so much for coming out. I know there's a lot going on in the expo hall here, and you had a choice. You could choose to go back to your hotel room and take a nap, but against all odds, you chose to come hang out with us. So greatly appreciate it. So as mentioned, my name is Brandon. I'm joined with my good friend Leandro here, and come on in. There's plenty of room up here too. Like you're more than welcome. And our goal today is to give you some quick wins for securing privileged access in the cloud from both the human side of things, but also the non-human side of things too.
Oh,
There we go.
there you go.
So quick agenda, you've already heard who we are. We'll talk to you about our respective companies, kind of what they do, where they fit. We'll then look at how to add automation to security before jumping into what we do with privileged human access, but then also how applications are accessing our AWS environments. We'll then move into looking at some open source tools that allow you to start this process without needing to have budget, without needing to have a project, just to instantiate security with what's available. On stage? Okay. All right. So we'll give you open source solutions to help you secure the environment without needing to do anything outside of what you're already doing today.
Well, so let me introduce myself. I'm Leandro. I'm from TOTVS, which is a Brazilian company. TOTVS is a ARP software development company. We have about 50% of the market share in Brazil. And basically, our ARP covers about 10 types of industries, going from retail, financial, HR, to manufacturing. And we have about 8,000 employees. So just to give you some ideas and some numbers.
And I'm with a company called CyberArk. We do privileged access security. That is the vaulting and rotation of incredibly powerful accounts, from things like privileged AWS access key secret key pairs, to IAM users, to EC2 instance keys, going all the way back on-prem to domain admin access, UID 0 accounts. So we store them securely. We change them programmatically so you don't have to do it. We then can impose things like session isolation and monitoring, threat analytics on top of these very privileged sessions in your organizations. We also have a booth right over there. So we're giving demonstrations just right a couple of steps away from the theater here.
OK, so let me explain about our scenario over there in Brazil. Our customers can run our software on-premise or into our cloud. So this is the before scenario we had. As you can see, we had a lot of process involved to deploy our customer environment into the cloud. So we have like a bazillions steps involved over there. So we started to plan like to make some automatizations involving the whole steps. So when our customer needs to has the customer environment deployed, we had like several steps involving like creating the virtual machine, the firewalls, database, and like making some parameterizations. So this is going to deliver our customer environment takes up to 15 days or up to 1 month, depending the size of our customers, right? And then some years ago, we started to deliver this customer tenant, our customer environment, creating and using automatizations concept. So we created our platform, which is like a middleware that has several components involved. It's created and built on top of AWS features. Okay, so we are using like Lambda, Cognito, WAF, Cloud Formation. Okay, and then we have a web front end for the customer. So the customer connects to this front end, this portal, and our platform has all the intelligence to create and deliver our the customer tenant, the customer environment into our cloud or into AWS. So have this process like orchestration involved. So before, to deliver the customer environment took about 1 month, and then it's decreased so much so we can deliver the customer in about 30 minutes or less. So this is so good for our business, all right? And then CyberArk is one of these part of the middleware. So CyberArk has it's part of the whole intelligence that components our platform.
And I imagine many of you are going through this transition today. Why use cloudborn processes? Why leverage AWS if you're not performing automation? So this transition from 30 days to do something to 30 minutes, or 15 days to 30 minutes, is a huge shift. Building automation is something you should do. It's something that Leandro and team built, but the question becomes, how do we do this in a secure way? How are we making sure that we're imposing both auth-in and auth-z on the people and non-people who build this process?
Yes, yes. One specific point is the business need that we are looking at the market, so we could have a solution that could address all the business needs. So we are looking for some solution that could address this automation need that we had, and like some solution that has a higher level of HR, high availability, disaster recovery to maintain and to keep our customers' environment running. And of course, to deliver the standardization and high level of automatization. So before that, the whole process was done like manually, and now we have this process which is done like automated process. And yeah, and one of the important topic to mention is that we could deliver some increased perspective in terms of security to our customers. So our customers can see that we are very engaged to increase over and over our security posture.
So where do we start? Many of us in the room are security practitioners. This is Inforce, right? It's AWS's first security conference. So of course, we got to dive a little bit into the security aspect of things. And if you've been paying attention over the last 6 years, things have changed. The breach flow used to be, you compromise an end user, send Leandro a funny cat video link, I guarantee you he'll click it. You elevate privilege on his system, move laterally, continue to elevate before you compromise a tier 0 asset and own an environment. Old school breach method, it hasn't gone away. It's diminished significantly from what we see today. Today, a new environment is you've got more and more stuff within AWS. And if you're not careful, you don't follow AWS's best practices, the potential risk here of gaining a privileged access into, say, even the management console can be heightened. Now, admittedly, I'm a millennial. I tend to want to be efficient with what I do. I'm a little lazy, I'm not going to lie to you. If given the choice between breach flow A and breach flow B, I'd probably choose the second one, right? I can do this from the comfort of my mother's basement. Not that I live in my mother's basement, but this flow is becoming more and more popular, and it starts with not following AWS's best practices, but we'll also show you how to add security to this process too. But the very first question, if you don't take anything away from this besides the cognitive dissonance around this message, is look at your human access. How are people, the people who sit behind keyboards and opening up those cat videos, how do they gain access at a privilege level into, say, the management console, or by accessing AWS CLI interactively? How often is the root account being used? I hope the answer is as little as humanly possible. But if you want to start, Look at the privileged humans we're trusting to perform administration on these incredibly key AWS environments. Vault the accounts, rotate them, put it through some sort of isolation process so that I can say, I know what Leandro did when he was in Firecall using the root account. Now, let's take a look at how that actually operates. But first, let's look at kind of what you've addressed in terms of your deployment and how you handled these problems.
Yeah, sure. So as I told you, TOTVS is a ARP software company. So now we are delivering our ARP into the cloud to our customers has this SaaS experience, right? And to deliver this customer environment, our customer environment, we have this middleware which makes these connections to our cloud or to AWS. So this step is basically the middleware has the intelligence to connect to the cloud and make the infrastructure stack. So this is going to create the infrastructure stack. I mean, creating the virtual machine, creating the firewalls, creating the database, and so far. And then, as a second step, it's going to create the software stack, which is installing our ARP, making the configuration, parameterization, and then deliver this environment to our customers. So all this step is done automatically over automatizations. And over these so long scripts, we have CyberArk integrated into this step. So CyberArk is a very important component because it's going to protect the customer environment. So when an ARP cloud analyst needs to connect to our customer environment for some troubleshooting or for some analysis, this connection, this SSH or RDP is done by CyberArk. So CyberArk works as a centralization component, giving high increasing the security because it's reducing the attack surface. And also, it's really important because CyberArk can record the section that the analyst is doing. So for auditing purposes, it's very beneficial for us. And I would say, I would point as well that, for example, when this analyst needs to connect to the customer environment, he or she didn't need to know the password because the CyberArk is the one that's responsible to make this connection. So, for example, if this analyst leaves the company, he doesn't need access to the customer passwords. So it's good. And also the password is rotated periodically done by CyberArk. So the customer environment, the tenant itself is like protected because CyberArk uses this technology to rotate the password and don't deliver the credentials, the password to the users to connect. So the connection is done like in a secure way. Okay, and this is also brings us be compliant with the ISO 27001 requirement.
So, Leandro, I'm going to challenge you on that one because what you've constructed is a scenario where users are authenticating to a solution, in this case, CyberArk somehow, and going through a secure Bastion process. But if you've ever used a Bastion, it sucks. It's the worst thing ever because I have to connect to one thing, then authenticate again after connecting to one thing, and then connect to another. So if you don't mind, I'll walk through this process a little bit in terms of what it looks like. The way it operates and the way we want it to be done is using native interface. So the analyst that Leandro mentioned when connecting to a back-end infrastructure resource or the management console first authenticates somehow. You can use a web portal to do this, but better yet, if you're connecting over SSH, use your own SSH client. If you're connecting via RDP, use your own RDP aggregator. If you're connecting into a web console, use your native browser. Find solutions that allow you to natively proxy. So user authenticates, they perform their strong authentication. In this flow, the secret is pulled internal to CyberArk. So the user doesn't see the password or secret, but also it doesn't end up on their workstation. So malware, memory scrapers, keystroke loggers, nasty stuff doesn't get access to our secret, even though it's already rotating. As an added benefit, as Leandro said, we're monitoring what's happening. I can tell you what he was doing as the root account, for instance. So no malware is getting into those disparate systems, but no credentials are reaching the end user's eyes. Because if you're anything like me, I feel like you're a little bit better. But if you're like me, you see a password, the first thing you want to do deep down inside of yourself is you want to write it down. And then I give it to Leandro. Leandro sells it on the darknet. Bad things happen. So we want to avoid that whenever possible. But the user experience can't suck, because then people line up outside of our offices with torches and pitchforks saying, this isn't going to work. I want to go back to the way things were before. Now, I'll challenge you. When we're talking about privileged access, you may have thought about, say, the management console. That's a great place to start. But remember, there are all sorts of assets in your environment that have administrative rights that are accessible through direct OS connectivity or even web-based connectivity too. So if Jenkins is running all of your configuration management processes, Jenkins is just like Skynet, which if you've not seen Terminator, is an artificial intelligence designed to save the human race, and it decided it was going to do that by just killing everybody. It's an automated process, but at some point, someone said, I'm going to turn on Skynet. That's a great idea. There's always human access that begins as a nexus to our automation, our scripted processes, things of that nature. So just remember, once you've targeted something like the console, look at your other web-based applications too. Yeah. Typically, you'll find unfettered administrative access. Typically, even if they're deployed inside of AWS and you've already got security controls that exist there. Yeah. Even something like CyberArk has web-based administrative access that can and should be protected. Drinking our own champagne, not eating our own dog food, that seems weird, so to speak.
Yeah, and Brandon, one important topic to mention as well is that we are protecting the application's password of our environment. So not only the clients, I mean the cloud analysts that are using CyberArk as well, but our middleware uses CyberArk making the API calls to rescue or to retrieve the customer password, and then having this credential, then the platform or the middleware can make the connection and automatize the customer environment.
And I'm glad you brought it up. So far, we've talked a lot about human access. But, and I don't imagine this is something you have in your environment, but sometimes we go against all odds, we go against recommendations, and our developers accidentally leave a hard-coded secret inside of a public or private code repository. Sometimes secrets are hard-coded inside of our RPA tools or inside of our vulnerability scanning. So the same process applies there. Being able to programmatically pull secrets from a secure store and doing it in a way that doesn't require code changes is a challenge that we all face from an application security standpoint, and something that at CyberArk we've done a lot of work to help mitigate the risk around. Now, while we won't talk very deeply about the application side of things, I'll leave you a couple of ideas. First, whether you are looking at CyberArk, you use another solution like it, challenge your vendors to integrate with as much stuff as humanly possible. Those RPA vendors, those vulnerability scanners, the CI/CD management tools, if they use a hard-coded secret and we're not integrating, be like, hey, vendors, integrate together. Admittedly, we didn't just take AWS out for ice cream one day and say, hey, we should integrate. Our customers said, CyberArk, AWS, you guys must integrate together. It has to happen. So look for those integrations as quick wins on your application rollout. It means you have to make minimal changes for very large security value increases. Also, when you're authenticating applications, resist the urge to replace one hard-coded secret, put in a vault, with another hard-coded secret that lets you access the vault to pull the hard-coded secret you just vaulted. In doing that, you've done a lot of work. You maybe built something really beautiful, but you've done very little in terms of security posture increase. So look at ways of using attribute-based authentication. Monolithic applications, a hash of the calling stack, file path, run as user, whitelisted host. For things like AWS-born applications, IAM roles. If you're using EKS or vanilla Kubernetes or OpenShift, native sidecar init container-based auth using attributes of the containers themselves, not using just hard-coded API keys. This is possible, and better yet, it's even possible using open source technology that Leandro and I will tell you about towards the very end of the presentation. So applications are people too, don't forget about that. But also, when you're looking at invoking security in your environment, doing things like, say, managing hard-coded secrets associated with EC2 instances, look for integrations that allow for automation. Things like Lambda functions that allow for, say, CyberArk to monitor CloudWatch. When we find a new instance, programmatically vault and rotate the SSH key pair associated with it. This is not a replacement for AWS KMS. It's an augmentation to what you're already doing with the platform that you have. When we automate deprovisioning and provisioning, it leaves us time to make human decisions rather than the rote vaulting stuff that happens manually and makes us, well, kind of hate our lives. So always look at means of automating this, as Leandro and team have done.
Okay, and one specific point that we need to secure as well is the human access into CyberArk, for example. So MFA, multi-factor authentication, is a very important thing to consider. So not only the application's credentials, but also the human being's credentials need to be protected. So be sure to use MFA for that.
The world is changing. So while you're securing human access into things like the console and instances, also don't forget there's privileged human access and other tooling that builds the automation of your pipeline. If any of you enjoy scouring GitHub, give it a try one day. Type in Postgres_secret and search by recent code commits. I guarantee you, within 30 minutes, you'll find someone's hard-coded secret existing in a public code repo. We're not just talking about direct console access. There's so much privilege associated with the automation processes that we're building. And that goes the same for knowing that there are human and non-human processes running in parallel. It can't be either or. They both must move forward in terms of a security posturing increase in a security program.
Okay, and the last but not least, begin with work with automatization and to delivery fast integrations to your environment. So as you could see, we used it to took about 1 month to deploy our customer environment, and now we are doing this like in minutes. So now our business can deliver like much more environment for our customers other than before.
So earlier we mentioned free stuff. Who doesn't like free stuff? I mentioned open source. I think I slightly mentioned free tooling to help you just understand what's going on in your AWS environment or in your hybrid environments too, which is very important, right? This is not just an AWS story. On-prem privilege exists and will continue to exist for the foreseeable future. But CyberArk offers a couple of pieces of software that are available at no cost, and this is key for me. The first is a tool we have called DNA, or Discovery and Audit. DAA sounded weird, so we just put an N in there. What it does is it's a nifty little binary that will scan either on-prem or cloud environments. It scours Active Directory. It scans NICs target nodes for username or user accounts, SSH keys. It looks for hashes. It can also integrate with AWS Inspector to give you information about privileged IAM users, access key secret key pairs, and even EC2 instance privilege. We can even jump down into code for things like WebSphere, WebLogic, Tomcat, and JBoss, or even into Ansible playbooks too. And what we do with that data is we build a terrifying report that you can take to people who are saying we don't need security and say, look at this, look what I've done. Look at what has happened in the environment. So you don't have to do it like that, but it shows you areas of risk that you can mitigate immediately. If you see that every single user with access to AWS has associated with an AWS admin role, you probably don't need to do that. Have a talk with your cloud architects or you yourselves audit the process. If you see human accounts, first initial, last name, logging into domain controllers on a day-to-day basis with domain admin rights, that's super weird. Look at that from an immediate mitigation standpoint and leverage this as a way just to know how your environment looks. So this is available. All you have to do is ask us for it. We'll provide it to you. Even give you help. So if you want our help running the scan or analyzing the results, we're more than happy to do that. The other side of that is, what if there were an open source spot where we could store our secrets and make them available to applications? We have a project called Conjure that's available in an open source state that is, well, it's a secret vault, it's a secret store. We have other open source tools. One's called Secretless, one's called Summon, that allow developers who are integrating the ability to continue to variabilize in code without needing to make direct code changes. This is just CyberArk open source supported tools. There are all kinds of elements of platforms, many tools here open source, that allow you to scaffold your security. But my recommendation to you is, whenever you use OSS, if there's a vendor associated, always challenge them on the security. Automation is key. Digital transformation is magnificent, but we should always focus on security as we move these processes forward. We don't want to slow people down. We just want to prevent terrible things from happening because of all the velocity that we've built. Leandro, anything to add before we move to Q&A?
Okay. We are very engaged, like to increase the security perspective of our customers. And this is one of the strategic projects, the project that we could address in our environment that could, for sure, leverage the security perspective.
Yeah. Now, before we stop for questions, one quick note, I mentioned it earlier, but everything we've talked about to you today are available to demo. So if you've got a second to stop by, we're actually right over there. You see the big CyberArk sign there hanging from the roof. Please let us know if you're interested in a particular element. We're more than glad to dive as deep as you'd like. But with the last couple of minutes, what questions do you have for us?
And I will happily bring you the microphone if you'd like.
And
anyone,
not just
raise
questions,
your hand.
comments, grievances, they're all welcome. Maybe positive comments and less grievances, but anything at all.
You have given them all the information they could possibly want, apparently.
Sounds like it. Thank you all so much again for taking the time. Let us know if anything you need at all, and have a great rest of the show. Cheers.
Okay, thank you.